Okay, we have the navigation for the dashboard. Now what we need is actually a dashboard in the front. So basically we need a number of employees here. I need a card which shows the number of employees. I need another card which shows the number of jobs. So I basically need two cards, but this project can be extended to add multiple options. But for now, I'm just going to add two cards over here. And when the user clicks on employees, he will be able to see how many employees are there. He will be able to add, edit, delete, and all those options. And same thing will apply for the jobs. But for now, in the dash, what I need is two cards which shows the specific options of the employees and jobs. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. So after the nav, I'm going to add another comment. I'm going to call this as dashboard contents. Okay, let me duplicate that. I'm going to add a dev.container, and this is going to be fluid. And inside this, we'll add a dev.row. Okay, and here we need two cards. So we need dev.call lg3.call md3. Okay, I'm going to duplicate that. So this is where we need our card. So I'm going to add a dev.card, and here inside this will add dev.card body. Okay, and we need a dev.card. Actually, we need a h4 tag, say card title. Okay, so here we can display like how many number of employees are there. So for now, I'm just going to add a random number, and once I done this, I'm going to add a small tag, and here I'm going to specify employees. Save that. Let's get back over here. Let's hit refresh. Okay, so we have this one, and I'm going to call this a class. Call this as text muted. That becomes kind of grayish in color. Okay, so we have 254 employees. Okay, I need some spacing on the top. So what we can do is for this row, I'm going to add margin top as 5. So that's going to give me some spacing over here. Let's hit refresh. Okay, so we have some spacing, and now we can add our list group items over here. So let's see how we can add that one. I'm going to look for list group, and we get these options. And from here, if you can navigate here, you can see that we have all these linking options which we can add. So let's see how we can add that one to our card. So right after the card body, I'm going to add another dev. I'm going to call this as list group. Okay, and inside this I'm going to add an anchor tag. I'm going to give a hash for now. I'm going to give a class, and I'm going to give list group item, and this is going to be actually a link where we can weave all the employees. I'm going to call this as weave all. Okay, so let's get back over here. Let's hit refresh. You can see that we have the weave all option. So but you can see that the borders are not properly fixing over here. So let's see how we can fix that one. Let's get to card, and inside the cards we have a list group items. You can see this one. So I need to add this class. So just copy this one and let's add it to our code. I'm just going to add it over here, save this, and set back refresh. Okay, so now it fixes it. So we can change the background color for this. I'm going to call this as list group item as primary. Okay, let's see how that looks. Okay, that looks fine, I guess. I think we can add some more styles to this particular card. So what we can do is we can inspect here. Let's see what else we can do with this. So this is our card here, and I can give a box shadow, I guess. So I'm going to say box shadow, say 2 pixel, 2 pixel, and we will give around 12 pixels blur, and that will be RGBA value with 0, 0, 0.2. Okay, that looks good. And I think I can get rid of the border here. So I will say border is 0 pixels. Okay, I think that looks fine. And we can just copy these things I'm going to call this as card border. So let's create a new one and call this as card border. Okay, let's add this. All I have to do now is just call this to my card that is over here. Let's paste it. Let's get back here. Let's hit refresh. Now you can see that it looks fine. Now I need another one for the jobs. So I'm going to click on this one and we can copy this entire column here. And inside that we have the card. Let's copy this one and then paste it over here. Now instead of this one, I'm going to specify that we have 25 jobs available. Okay, and yeah, that should look fine now. So if I hit refresh, okay, so we have the 25 jobs option available.